Devil May Cry 3 is like my favorite game ever. Roll credits. Dude, Devil May Cry 3 hit me like a brick, but you know, in a good way. I played it first when I was in middle school, and man, I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. I wanted to be Dante, mostly in the abs department, but you know, guns are cool too. I enjoyed the game a lot back then, and I do so now too, of course. Respect is what differs my perspective. Devil May Cry 3 is good for hard reasons, and this review is going to point out a few lessons I think could directly apply to other video games. In the spirit of fairness, though, I don't like these Boo-esque enemies, these Crystal Knight dudes, and the Centipede, Leviathan's Heart, and Garyon fights could have been at least more interesting. You've got banger boss fights that are actual characters, and then a big flying bug. In the mid to late game, traversal gets a little frustrating too. There's nothing terrible in this game, just mildly disappointing. Now don't fall asleep, I'm about to use some technical terms. These are lessons, remember. I expect you to take notes. Lesson number 1, the style meter. I really don't think the style meter gets the praise it deserves, and Devil May Cry 3 is the game that finally ironed out its kinks. Let's talk abstract for a minute. I'm about to get more boring than usual, so watch out. The style meter exists as a sort of point-scoring mechanism, a combat rating device. This is not unique to Devil May Cry at all. The primary difference is communication, and everything else it is good at is built on top of that. Okay, so I'm in a fight. How good am I doing? What bonuses am I accumulating? The style meter gets straight to the point. Instead of points, which are not easily understood at a simple glance as what is a good amount, you've got D to triple S. DMC3 adds a small bar underneath the meter to show how far along you are to the next rank. Then, at the end of the mission, you see the reward for your effort. The points were always being tallied. You were just being shown what you needed to know. In the moment, the style meter provides a secondary challenge to every single encounter. It inherently incentivizes the competitive nature in the player to burst forth. There are people out there that don't really care to get at least an S rank, but I've never met them. You see, the style meter pushes the player to play the game in what is arguably the correct way, the most fun way. Dodging enemies, hitting hard, countering, taunting, and using a variety of moves. By raising your style meter, you better embody the Dante you see in the cutscenes. By raising your style meter, well, you become more stylish. The meter pushes you to play in a way that enforces variety and causes you to pay a bit more attention to every single encounter. You're rewarded not just in bonuses, but the knowledge that you managed to do something difficult, and the visual spectacle you know you created. Yes, there are some exploits, yet still it's really ingenious. But to really understand, we need to look at some alternatives. Bayonetta is the most obvious example, being basically the weirdly long-legged sister franchise to Devil May Cry. During combat, there is a combo points meter that acts very similarly to the style meter. It just doesn't work as well. While us hairless apes understand that big number good, it's still abstract. The style meter has obvious stages that push you incrementally to success. Meanwhile, in Bayonetta, you don't really know how well you did until the encounter is over, meaning you lose some of the moment-to-moment incentive. The Guardians of the Galaxy game that came out recently has a style meter. Now, I haven't played it, but judging by footage online, I'm not too pleased with the implementation. It does work more similarly to Devil May Cry, though. It focuses on a rating, then has a bar underneath. The problems are quite simple. The meter doesn't flux enough, it doesn't degrade quickly like DMC's, it's too easy to max it out, and it also lacks the obvious alphabetical understanding that DMC has. There's just something intuitive about going from D to A than the super rankings. In this game, it's fantastic, incredible, uncanny, then amazing, and finally marvelous. FIUAM? I get ending on marvelous, but there isn't an obvious escalation in these ratings. Ultra Kill does it perfectly. Lesson number 2. Character progression through boss repetition. This is an excellent example of the meeting of plot and gameplay, and is the most obvious lesson to be learned. You nerds watching have probably seen people discuss this one before. So this game is literally subtitled Dante's Awakening, so how are we gonna show that? Through Vergil. the perfect rival. Now let's consider the following. The primary feeling that DMC3 wants to bring about in the player is a feeling of success brought about by the mastering of gameplay systems. We've already showed how the style meter helps kick that in minute by minute, but now let's think in the more long term. This prequel has the task of showing how this flippant, probably teenager Dante became the one that matched his legendary father in accomplishment. It's one thing to show him wipe out some cannon fodder, but how can we establish an increase in mastery through gameplay and story? Obviously, Vergil. Vergil operates with the same hardware that Dante does. Literally twin brothers with, as far as we can tell, just about the same power set. Vergil and Dante clash 3 times in this game, and the results show a clear escalation in Dante's power level in relation to his brother. First, Dante gets his ass blasted, then it's a tie, and finally he decisively wins. On top of that, there's a lot of little details I think help show this power dynamic. In the first fight, Vergil's attacks destroy the statues surrounding the ring, while yours do not. In the second fight, Vergil starts using Devil Trigger, is angrier, and tells you that he's a little motivated. He's trying harder. He uses a weapon acquired from a boss you fought as well, a boss you may have struggled with, but he killed in one strike. In the final fight, Vergil starts adopting some parts of your own moveset to use against you, subtly implying that you've got the good stuff, while also reiterating on the idea of them being twins. There's also the taunting. You taunt Vergil, and he taunts back. When he uses DT, he gets health back like you. These fights are hard, absolutely hellish on Dante Must Die, and that's exactly as they should be. Devil May Cry 3 is no walk in the park, doubly so if you've got an original NTSC copy, yet Vergil still stands out. Having talked to many people who have played this game, I can say that unskilled players unlock easy mode on Mission 2, good players on Mission 3, and great players unlock it at Vergil. Only the best of the best make it past him without dying 3 times on their first run. So, after all that, at the end of the game, you can feel some real accomplishment believing that you conquered a very difficult yet fair challenge alongside Dante. Now let's look at some other examples like we did before. It is with remarkable irony that the bad example that immediately came to mind was DMC Devil May Cry. We were supposed to be talking about basically the same characters here, but the power dynamic is just completely different. In this game, Vergil acted primarily through subterfuge and had Dante do the real fighting. Presumably like before, they have about the same powers, but the dynamic is shifted in Dante's favor. Combine that with a piss-easy boss fight that interrupts itself multiple times with transitions, and it's practically impossible to call Fedora Vergil a worthy rival fight. Vergil doesn't even make Dante sweat. This is supposed to be an origin-type story like 3, so what's going on? There's something incredibly telling about how 3 showed escalating power by struggling and then succeeding, and the reboot showed power by barely having any struggle and then just curb-stomping a Reddit nice guy. I thought I'd turn around and start liking this game someday, but it's been 8 years and I still find it embarrassing. The traditional rivals in the Pokémon series do this decently well. There's a bit of a cheating element by taking the starter that is super effective against yours, but hey, that just shows a competitive attitude. The gameplay is there, but they lack the same kind of plot additions that Vergil and Dante have. It's one thing for them to be rivals because you're both into the same kind of thing, and it's another to be rivals for more personal reasons. Gary's still the best rival. Ultra Kill gets it just about right. Lesson number 3. Rewarded for... Uh-oh. Record scratch. This video was supposed to be like 5 minutes long. I now understand when YouTubers say we don't have time for this. We're shortening this up hard so I can get back to the main channel videos. So, the only mandatory unlocks in DMC3 are things that provide variety, be they weapons, styles, or DT. As the style meter rewards variety, this helps enforce it. Everyone is guaranteed a good degree of freedom and combos. This further helps push players into playing the game in the most fun way possible. And the last lesson was something about the chess piece demons. They show enemy hierarchy in a very simple way that the majority of players should immediately understand. Enemy design in games should be able to tell you the degree of a threat an enemy poses just by looking at them. And sorry to be abrupt, but that's it. I've got an assload of videos to work on, so see you soon. Tell me what you think below. Good night.